Style for Life. I'm Stephanie Rumble, fashion stylist, accountability coach, and your guide to feeling good in your body and your clothes. Based in Christchurch, New Zealand, I bring over 3 decades of experience in fashion, fitness, and wellness to help you feel strong, stylish, and self-assured. Together we'll explore the emotional, physical, and practical sides of style because true confidence starts from within. No matter your age or size, you deserve to feel confident and show up as the best version of you. I truly believe this. This is Style for Life. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. One of my favourite places for the week is to be sitting here in front of you doing my podcast. So very happy to see you. And again, I have enjoyed hearing your feedback and comments on last week's podcast, which was all about the high summer fashion trends. And I had a couple of you reach out and some people telling me what they have purchased and a few of the retailers as well. So again, very much appreciate that feedback. And it's really nice on this podcast to be able to share all of the different aspects that make up style. So we think about only style being fashion, but it's so many other things. And that's why I called this podcast Style for Life. I felt a real alignment with those words because I want you to have style in all aspects of your life. So I want you to feel like that's not just about physical style, it's about emotional and psychological style as well. So I know that sounds a little bit twee, and you've potentially listened to the introduction, or you will have if you've got here, and the introduction talks about that. So yeah, I just wanted to say that that's what this podcast is about. So that's why one week we might be talking about clothing and fashion and style, and then the next week I'm talking about something else entirely different, like this week, right? So this week I've been thinking a little bit about what I'm doing. I'm going into a planning session after this podcast is recorded, actually, with my fantastic team from Tri-Orbit Digital, Leonard Voss and his partner Vana. They are amazing. Just by the way, I'm going to give them a shout out here because they have done so much work transcribing my blog, which means they listen to these podcasts word for word and put my blog together. And it goes on my website and they put the photos in and they get my voice right. Like, it is insane. So I'm just wanting to acknowledge them and thank them for all the work they do. And you'll hear a bit more about them because I'm going to do an interview with one of them. And after this podcast record, I am having a planning session with them to put together a podcast planning schedule because they want that. They need that. I'm a little ad hoc and we need to get some structure around things this year. One of the goals for 2026. Anyway, what am I talking about today? Do you know, it's so funny how the podcasts come to me, and this one has been on my mind for probably 6 weeks, and it's been such a time where I've experienced this. And then, you know, obviously I get back into work and things are a bit different. So I've called this podcast The Importance of Human Connection. And I lament as to whether we would have needed a podcast like this back when our parents and our grandparents were our age. Yes, a question to ask yourself. Do you think your mother, if you're somebody who's, you know, perhaps in your adult years, or your father or your grandparents or your great-grandparents needed to learn about human connection because they had to be connected. They didn't have technology like we have nowadays. And we connect in all sorts of different ways. So a lot of our connection nowadays is digital. So, you know, you can have communications and relationship with people and have never met them. So I haven't met Leonard and Vana, my beautiful team who do all my digital work, because they live in the Gold Coast. I'm hoping to get over there one day this year soon. I will get over there and I will see you guys this year. I'm sure I'm going to make it happen. But anyway, so sometimes you can have relationship and connection without actually meeting the people face to face. So I'm talking here about face to face human or actual human connection. So again, how does that look? Because there's a whole lot of aspects to it. So you can still build a relationship and a friendship and a very functioning and great relationship with people online and digitally. But if you want to actually establish an intimate or emotional connection with that person, you need to be in the same room as them. So I think that's the key too. I think, and that's the thing when we do online dating, right? We connect online, we check each other out. I mean, I don't do this myself because I've been married for nearly 30 years. Actually, maybe a podcast needs to be on how to stay married for 30 years. Oh, maybe I need to interview my husband. Anyway, so yes, obviously, sorry, got on a tangent there. So human connection is really important on a face-to-face level if you're wanting to establish a relationship post a dating app. So for example, you find you like someone, then you meet up. They have a wee meet up. I've talked to my friends about this, right? You only share first names and meet in a neutral place and all of that. But you get a real vibe for someone quite quickly when you see them face to face. And actually talking about this with one of my children, they said to me, "Oh, Mum, I wish that we had different places we could meet a partner, not just online. I want to be able to go somewhere and see them and interact with them and do fun things, like going to a dance." And I'm like, yeah, we were so awkward at dances, weren't we? So why is human connection important? So it's critically important for overall health. It acts as a fundamental need, as vital as exercise or healthy eating. Honestly, this is so true. And when people who live alone, I'm going to talk quite a bit about loneliness later, there's a real indicators around suicidal ideation and extreme loneliness, which isn't good. So it's this fundamental vital need as exercise or healthy eating. Connection reduces the risks of anxiety, depression, and premature death, and actually boosts self-esteem, empathy, longevity, and physical health, because it provides you with the ability to belong to a group, support other people. You can also get stress relief from human connection. And the thing that we forget is we are wired as humans for social interaction, right? So we're actually beings that are connected together. If you've read the book, The Secret Life of Trees actually have a connection with each other. Right? Amazing, right? And we as humans are so wired for this. Now, this doesn't matter if you're an introvert, an extrovert, or whatever kind of vert you think you are. And that's very valid, by the way. Totally valid. You are still wired for social connection. And so social connection creates strong bonds. So the bonds that it creates help protect against illness and disease. I know it's really honestly so important. And it's like a pillar of physical and mental well-being. So you need both to be to be healthy and connecting, right? And it's really important. Reciprocal engagement matters more than mere presence. So I teach this to a lot of the people I work with doing education. Is engagement needs to be a game of tennis, right? You throw the ball, they hit it back. You hit the ball, they hit it back. They hit it, you hit it. It needs to go both ways. So think about a conversation like this, right? You go into a conversation and you're curious about the other person, because curiosity 100% helps human connection, right? And finding and establishing common bonds helps establish human connection. So challenge yourself. When you meet somebody, they ask you a question, you ask them the question back. Consciously do this, right? Like I do have this conversation with myself. Like I just had an online meeting with someone I haven't seen since last year. She's amazing. I was just chatting to her and we had a meeting and first thing is I said, "How was your summer?" She told me what she'd been doing. She's been to Sri Lanka. How lucky is she? And she's been at a conference and now she's at work today and we're meeting. And it was really great hearing about her summer. And then she asked me how my summer was and I explained. So, we both spent the first 6 or 7 or 8 minutes of our conversation establishing a connection. And you don't need to share a lot of personal, intimate details if that's not your vibe. However, connection is about establishing common ground. And you're not going to be able to do this unless you can be curious. Curiosity is a very endearing human trait. Now, it's not nosiness. We're not going to ask you how much money you have in your bank account or, intimate details of your relationships and those sort of things. But establishing common ground and being curious make all the difference to how you're going to show up and relate in the world. So what are some of the benefits of human connection? Well, first of all, let's look at the mental health benefits. we're going to look at mental, physical, and other types of health, right? So first of all, the research shows us that human connection helps lower depression. And I know that this is a really tricky and complex area. And I just want to profess that I'm not a trained health professional here. I do research all of my podcasts quite extensively and do come up with information that I've found online. I've been reading some information from the Harvard Business Review, some of the other US academic organizations as well. Human connection lowers depression, anxiety, and loneliness. It helps improve self-esteem and resilience. Because human connection can also be confronting, right? So it can help lower depression and anxiety because you can let other people hold you a little bit, right? It can help with loneliness because you can actually hold somebody else, right? And it helps improve your self-esteem. So how you feel about yourself because you're contributing to somebody else. You also become more resilient when other people contribute to you and you contribute to others. Right? So think about how people are contributing to you and allowing them to give feedback. Open yourself up for feedback and growth. That's what other humans do. It's the best, right? It sometimes can be uncomfortable, right? So that's the first advantage of human connections for mental health. Physical health, now surprisingly, if you didn't know this, human connection reduces the risk of heart disease, right? Stroke, dementia, and improves immune function. How good is that? So if you are feeling like things are not going as well for you, you're suffering from immunity issues, and I have a friend who for a long time was struggling with connection. They'd had some relationship troubles, things had changed in their life, and they ended up not being on their own for a while, and they suffered from many colds and flus over that period of time. Like, it was continuous, and their immunity was compromised. Interestingly, they were saying to me just the other day that they've now established a meaningful relationship with somebody and their immunity is a bit better. So physical health is very related to our mental health, right? And I've talked before about our body keeping the score. So sometimes if you are suffering from things like, dementia is another one, right? There's so much research that points us towards human connection being important for dementia because it helps improve the neural connections in your brain. You're having to fire in different areas and people are contributing to you and talking to you and coming at you, which keeps our brains alive, especially when we're prone to things like dementia. I'm on a life mission to prevent dementia if I possibly can. There's a bit of a familial trait for me. Okay. Longevity. Oh la la. Yeah, really interesting. Stronger ties are linked to longer, healthier lives. So I think at this point I might just share with you about a French lady who I did some research on. So she was the oldest, her name was Jeanne Calment. She was a French super centenarian. I don't know how to say it. She was a French woman who lived to the age of 122. She's the longest verified human lifespan on record. Like, there's probably people in other countries, right? And so they asked her why she lived such a long time. She credited her extraordinary longevity to olive oil, yeah, a nightly glass of port, frequent laughter, and a resilient attitude, right? So research is increasingly showing, of course, that social and psychological factors such as being connected to others, having an optimistic outlook, and having a positive and resilient mindset, like Calment, play a critical role in promoting well-being and longevity. So this particular lady lived for a really long time. So when you look at the blue zones around the world, and I'm not going to be able to name all of them because I forget, but I know that one of them that I always remember is Okinawa, which is an island off the bottom of Japan, and I'm fascinated. I'm going to have to go there. If I go to Japan, I am 100% going there. Maybe I can have an immersion week or something there, but I definitely want to go. It's one of my draw cards. I like the idea of visiting Japan anyway. So there's one in Japan. There's a couple in separate states in the US, and the others have escaped my brain at this moment. But there's about 6 blue zones in the world. The blue zones are the areas where they have a high number of people who live over the age of 100. And actually, research I was reading earlier last week said that for the first time ever, Japan has reached over 100,000 people who are now aged 100 or more. Holy hickories. And I've had quite a few Japanese students and through our house. They're really great. We love all our students that come in, but they do have very disciplined life strategies around their routines, and they tend to eat really healthily. It's so interesting. Anyway, I got sidetracked talking about human connection and longevity because I am fascinated. Maybe a podcast needs to be on longevity too. Have you ever wondered how you can be a fashion stylist with access to premium digital styling products? Do you want to be trained by the best in the industry and access these products that reflect fashion styling in 2025? If you do, then Image Innovators is absolutely the choice for you. This is because they have a network of over 1,000 trained fashion stylists worldwide, and you know when you work with them, you're getting the best of the best. They have evidence-based professional training offered by highly skilled facilitators that help you reach your absolute potential. This is a great alignment with Style for Life, as I in my business have used and endorsed their products for over 10 years with so many happy clients. And I'm really excited to say I'm also offering training to fashion stylists in conjunction with Image Innovators. So if you're ready to start your fashion styling training journey, then use the code BRIGHTRED25 for 10% off all products. Now, one of the other benefits of human connection is obviously stress management. So having other humans to connect with, talk to, interact with can help us manage stress and provide support during difficult times. Now that needs to be reciprocal. I was just having this conversation with my previous meeting. So, if you have a conversation with somebody else and you're sharing your personal stuff, make sure they come to you with their personal stuff. Develop your self-awareness enough to see that it's coming in both directions, right? So I have some friends who are actually great. Both of us talk about stuff that we both struggle with. And I love that because I don't want to be just dumping all my stuff on you and you not sharing anything with me, right? So stress management is about having other people help provide support during difficult times. Now, sometimes it might not be reciprocal if you're in a really difficult spot. You might not have the capacity to take theirs, but there'll be a time where that comes back to you, right? So stress management is actually increased with social connection. Overall well-being. And it's an interesting one because while we were raising our family, and clearly we just rode into parenthood really quickly, like galloped in with all our children, all really quickly and all close together, and it was very full on and very fantastic and fabulous. And you just feel valued, loved, and like you're belonging because your children and you and your partner are just all one little unit, right? So having that connection it's like a supercharged unit of great connection. And I didn't think much about human connection for 20 years because I just had it left, right, and center all around me, and it was so good. Like my husband and I always had someone to talk to relate to hug, to be around. Now it's each other, which is good. But your overall well-being is greatly increased with human connection, right? Feelings of being loved, valued, and belonging. And again, it's really important to think about this in terms of our elderly. So let's have a look at that. So some other research I've listened to. I listened to a really great documentary a few days ago called Birth Gap. Birth Gap. Now, this documentary is about the declining world's population and how in most countries in the world, for every 2 50-year-olds, there is one baby being born, which is kind of a crisis in so many ways. Anyway, that's another story again. That's called Birth Gap. But in this documentary, I learned about suicide rates in Japan. So again, we're talking about a lot of people who are living to a long time. However, the young people aren't having enough babies. So what's happening is, so this is about suicide stats, so I'm really sorry. So the risk of isolation, and again, I looked at Japan because there's a lot of statistics around that. Over the last 25 years, or more than that, 35 years, from 1990 to 2025, a large and increasing number of people over the age of 65 who committed suicides 6,000 people plus. So what they're seeing is they're seeing older people taking their lives more, and this is about isolation and loneliness and lack of human connection. So where these countries are seeing a lot of people living a long period of time, there's also pockets of people who are not getting the connection they need and are not feeling valued and not seeing the point in being alive. So you've got to stay alive with connection. No point in just staying alive on your own. Oh, hallelujah, I've got myself for company. It's not, in the end, it doesn't work, right? You need to have other people in your orbit to help that. So how do we foster connection? How do we actually make connection? How do we bring people in and have people around us? So I never can say this word. Reciprocity. Is that it? Reciprocity. Reciprocity. That is where you give and you get, and they give and they get, right? So it's both ways. So this is where you engage in dynamic exchanges with people face to face, with eye contact, or if it's online, have your camera on. You nod, you smile, you engage, you actively listen. Actively listening is not listening like this on your phone. Actively listening is not like, yeah, nah. Actively listening is not listening to tell you a story. Oh, I want to tell you when blah, blah, blah. Actively listening is being in the conversation, nodding, acknowledging, smiling where appropriate, giving the other person a chance to speak, and then speaking, and being curious and asking questions. A second point to foster connection, quality over quantity. I've learned this in my life. I've got a lot of people in my life. My life is full and awesome. And most of the time I feel very, very connected and very lucky to be where I'm at. But I think this has happened more as I've got older. So quality over quantity, deep, meaningful relationships rather than numerous superficial ones. And I know this from talking to a lot of young people I've worked with, is you often have more superficial relationships when you're younger, still figuring out who your people are, right? But those deep, meaningful relationships mean more than the numerous superficial ones, right? So who are the people that are close to you? Who are in your orbit? Who can you trust? And if you can't, there's nobody, then I'll give you some tools about how we can figure that out too. Now, sometimes you've got to learn to connect, right? You've got to learn to connect. So you might have political views here, and someone else might have political views here. Or you might have health and wellness views here, and they have them here. So they're not necessarily aligned, right? So that you have to be tolerant of other people's views. So you can't get connection unless you cultivate skills like tolerance. Okay? And that's staying out of judgment. And that brings me to my second point in learning to connect, which is empathy. If you want to find and connect with other people, you have to show empathy. Empathy is made up of 4 things. 1, put yourself in the other person's shoes. Can you see and feel what they're feeling? So 1, put yourself in other person's shoes. 2, stay out of judgment. This is from Brené Brown, by the way. Brené Brown's rules on empathy. So put yourself in the other person's shoes, stay out of judgment, recognize emotion in others. Then connect to that emotion and respond to it. 4 keys of empathy from Brené Brown. I'll say them one more time so you've got them, right? So, number 1, put yourself in the other person's shoes. Number 2, stay out of judgment. Number 3, recognize the emotion in others. Number 4, connect to that emotion and communicate to it. Okay, that's how you connect. You be empathetic. Empathy is often a skill that we're underdeveloped in. And be connectable. That one resonated so much with me, because my phone spends a lot of time on Do Not Disturb. And so being connectable was really important. So I tend to schedule my response times just so that I can be connectable in those times. So connectable is, can you make time to talk to somebody, or are you available, or is your phone always on silent, or are you always going to voicemail, or are you always taking a long time to respond to messages? You've got to learn to connect. You've got to learn to connect. Connecting is not just like J. This is a J person, right? A neck bent looking down at your phone. I remember going traveling and seeing trains full of J people. That's not what we want. We want you to be able to connect with other people. Get off your devices. Say hello. Do you sit next to someone on an airplane and just put your earplugs in? Do you have a chat? Try it. What happened when we didn't have earphones? We didn't have iPhones. We didn't have Android phones. We didn't have iPads and computers and things. How did we connect? We sat on a bus. And sometimes we read a book. Sometimes we quietly looked out the window. We always said hello to the people sitting next to us. And more often than not, we had a polite conversation. We learned the skills of connection. So let's have a look at a premature death from lack of social connection. So loneliness and social isolation increase the risks of premature death by 26 and 29% respectively. Last year in the US, the Surgeon General declared social disconnection as epidemic. 50% of the adults in the US battling with loneliness. My goodness, that is such a high number. So we have 5 minutes left of the podcast. I'm going to give you some activities that you might want to try to help reduce or combat or loneliness, and also improve your social connection. So number one is a walking group. Now I'm going to tell you about my husband, David. So many of you will know he's been medically retired since 2017, 2018, I think it is, around there. And he hasn't worked since then. He's had reasons not to do that. And for a while, he didn't have a lot of other people to connect with because he'd left a very long and very well-established professional career, and that just went overnight. So for a while, he didn't connect with other people as much. And then we found out about a men's walking group that has a group of men that he knows. And every Sunday he gets up at 6:15 and they walk the same walk here in Christchurch, up Mount Vernon, and they chat and they interact. And sometimes I'm invited, but mostly it's men. And they are a great group of men. They are insanely amazing. If any of you are listening to this, you are great. You are great for each other. You are great for males in the world. Men need to connect more, and walking groups are a really healthy, amazing way to do this. So that is every week, and I can tell you, every week there's something interesting, snippet of information or story to tell, and they do connect, and then they have a coffee and food afterwards. It's very good. Art classes. I mean, I'm not very good at art, but maybe you can learn. Volunteering activities. There's a lot of research around pro-social activities. Volunteering, especially as you get older, the research shows us that people who are older get as much out of the volunteering as the people they volunteer for. So volunteering activities are really good. About 2 years ago, I started a book club, and I've just read the most awesome book called The Little Library of Lula Dean's Banned Books. So good, so good. Such a good social commentary. And I can see that when we get together in our book group next month, it's going to be a great topic of conversation. Very good book. Faith or spirituality. So if you're part of a church, often you have a really great run sheet of people that you can connect with who have the same views, which is really cool. A healthy workplace. Like I was talking to a friend of mine this morning, and she was sharing some things about her workplace, and my goodness, I can see how much connection she gets from that, and that is so awesome. Being self-employed like me, you have to work a bit harder. And then the last thing here, which can also help you with connection, is actually being optimistic. It's a disposition or tendency that the future will be good. So it's the disposition or tendency to believe that the future will be good. How's that? I have to say, I read a wee bit of research on this. So earlier this year, well, actually it's very early in the year, it must have been later last year, researchers found that postmenopausal women who reported high levels of optimism showed healthier function on 2 indicators that can predict someone's ability to maintain physical health and independence as they age. So these were the 2 indicators: the number of times they were able to stand up from a chair without using their hands during 15-second trials, and grip strength. So there you go. Optimism increased optimism improve those physical indicators. So that's being able to stand up from a chair without using their hands, which is like this, standing up, sitting down, standing up, sitting down, and then grip strength as well. Those things are indicated to people who are more optimistic. And then in 2020, there was a US study of Army active soldiers and found those who were more optimistic had a 22% lower risk of developing hypertension, that's high blood pressure, in the following 3.5 years. So such an interesting piece of research in optimism. So again, some of you may tend to be less optimistic than others, but remember, you can choose. I choose it. I choose to be optimistic. I don't choose to be unrealistic. Sometimes I'm a little bit realistic and sometimes a little bit pessimistic, but mostly I'm optimistic. So I hope that has been a useful podcast for you on the importance of social connection. I have loved researching this. I have loved thinking about it. And it's really interesting. One of the goals that I have for this year is to improve and increase my social connections, particularly in my friend areas. I've had lots of work and I am busy with my work, and I have a big family and a lot of commitments, and I would like to also include my friends in that a bit more. So, as your children grow and leave you, you are looking to foster those connections. So thank you, everybody, for listening to the podcast again today. It is a sunny day in January, and it is the summer here in Christchurch, and I'm very happy that it's warm. I'm optimistic that we will get some more sunshine this week. We've had a bit of rain. Anyway, I love talking about the weather because it actually tells you what to wear, doesn't it? Anyway, thank you for listening to our podcast today on the importance of human connection. I challenge you to go out in the world, reach out to someone you haven't spoken to for a while that you want to connect with, set up a date with them, go for a walk, have a coffee, have a drink, whatever works for you, and enjoy the summer if you're in the southern hemisphere. If you're in the northern hemisphere, enjoy the winter. And thank you all for listening. Please do not forget to check out our fantastic sponsor, Image Innovators. They make fantastic premium styling products, and together with Image Innovators, in 2 weeks' time, we launch our first stylist training school. I'm very excited to be doing that. And also, if you would like to learn more or watch this, if you have been listening, you can watch on YouTube. Very useful to watch, especially when we have our visual podcasts on style trends, etc. Or you can follow us on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and we do occasionally post to TikTok as well. So kia kaha, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast today, and go well. Thank you for listening to the Style for Life podcast. Don't forget, you deserve to feel fabulous at every age, every stage, and at every size. If you're loving the show, hit subscribe and leave a review. It helps more amazing people like you find their way back to life through style. Thanks again. Until next time.